Alright, and welcome to Not Suitable for Adults Road Trip Edition.
It's a road trip.
You can tell it's a road trip because you can probably hear a little bit of driving noise in the background.
I'm driving. I am not holding the device. I am being safe. My hands are free except for of the steering wheel.
Yeah, they're not just flapping around, they're holding the steering wheel.
Don't just flap my hands around willy-nilly.
So we're doing a road trip edition because we're headed back from Natalie's parents' house, which isn't that far, but we just decided now would be a good time to do it. We don't really feel like setting up all the recording stuff when we get home.
Well, and also we're going to be traveling a bit in the next couple weekends as well, so it's kind of, good to know if we can do this or not.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, fair listener,
Fair. You're so fair.
if you listen to this and you're like, I like what they had to say, and I don't mind listening to them while they're driving, then let us know, because we may need to do this again.
My car revved up there.
It's all four of those cylinders just purr. Let us know if you don't mind us doing these, and we may end up doing one or two more of these in the next few weeks. Or if you're like, no, listen, that was fine once, but let's not do it again, then we'll take that to heart, and maybe we'll do a best of episode.
Okay. By the way, he's rich.
And she's Natalie. And this is Not Suitable for Adults, so we thank you for listening. And we're going to start with one of Natalie's favorite things.
Yay!
Natalie's going to learn a little bit more about Pokemon.
Which I feel like they have to be tired of hearing this debate.
They might, but no one's told me that they are, and I'm going to assume that means they love it.
Okay, well, here you go. You guys better start commenting more if you hate it.
And then they're like, love it. Keep it coming.
Oh, man. Okay.
So there's a new Pokemon show on Netflix.
Uh-huh.
It's a Netflix original. And I think I've talked a little bit about this before with some of the new stuff coming from Pokemon. They're doing a little bit of a retcon of early Pokemon history. The stuff that I already know. They're kind of changing it up a little bit.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not sure that this one even really is a retcon. It's hard to tell if it's set after everything I've seen so far, or if it is set at the very beginning. But I'll tell you this. So
you don't know at what time period this is happening?
It's kind of hard to tell.
Wow, this makes for a great show, I'm sure.
Well, it's still fun to watch. So here's the premise. The first episode, I'm going to go and spoil the whole first episode for you folks. But the first episode is called something like...
Well, tell them first what the name of... I don't think you said what the name of the show is.
Pokemon Journeys. They're going on journeys.
Pokemon : Journeys or Pokemon Journeys?
It's like Pokemon in the Pokemon special font, and then underneath it in a whole different font, Journeys.
Okay.
So there's not a colon, but it's implied.
Okay, an implied colon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so...
Whoa, excuse you. Don't come over in my line. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
We're back. So, in this one, the very first episode is all about this little Pichu. And what a Pichu is the pre-evolved form of Pikachu.
So it's like a baby Pikachu?
It's like a baby Pikachu.
Okay, a Pichu?
A Pichu.
What is the adult Pikachu called?
Raichu.
Okay. Alright, let's keep going.
Alright. So, we're kind of following around Pichu, and we're also seeing younger Ash. When he's younger, definitely before, this episode definitely is before, it's like a little prequel episode.
Oh, so the whole show's not a prequel, you think just this episode is?
Well,
the
again,
first one.
It's hard to say.
Okay. Great.
So
far it makes, it seems very, very clear.
Yeah. So the reason that this episode exists is, one, to give us a little origin story on Pikachu.
Uh-huh.
Because this little baby Pichu is our friend Pikachu.
Oh, okay.
And he, it turns out, is sort of raised by this group of Kangaskhan, which Kangaskhan, if you want to...
It sounds like Genghis Khan.
Yes, correct. But the Kanga part is... that
a kangaroo.
it's part kangaroo. So it carries it's a big old dinosaur-looking kangaroo.
Oh my goodness!
With like this little baby it carries around in its pouch.
They're super good at naming things in the Pokemon verse.
They are. I'm glad you think so. So Pichu is being raised by Kangaskhan, and then the B story is young.
A B story. It made me think of a B movie. Sorry, go ahead.
The B story is young Ash, in a perfect mirror of the first episode of the original Pokemon series, wakes up late for his first day at Pokemon Camp, which is really just like they're going to go do a little walkabout with Professor Oak, a bunch of the kids from his town, one of whom is named Go, and this is how they're Go, which is how they're pulling together the idea of the video game Pokemon Go.
Okay.
This is basically just like, here's how they met, and also here's where Pikachu came from, is this first episode. So after that, at the end of that, we see Pichu evolve into Pikachu, and then flash forward to when Pikachu first meets Ash, and we're like, okay, now you're caught up.
What happens when Pokemon evolve? Do they just grow suddenly, or do they, build a cocoon?
No, they start... well, some bug Pokemon build a cocoon.
Okay.
But for the most part, they just kind of glow and then become a bigger version of themselves.
All right. I wish that's how humans grew.
Yeah, like just as you go through developmental leaps, you just glow, and then now you're a foot taller.
Well, it would be good for kids. We would know they're going through a growth spurt if they just glowed.
Sure. So from here on, and this is why it's confusing, is we don't really see, and I don't remember hearing them say he's been all over these places, but they encounter Team Rocket, and Ash seems to know Team Rocket, but we've only seen him use Pikachu, which I really think the main point of this show is to be more like Pokemon Go, where you just kind of have you can go to gym battles and bring more Pokemon with you, but for the most part it's you and one other Pokemon that is getting experience as you walk on the mobile game.
Okay, so maybe they just couldn't use the term Pokemon Go, so they said Pokemon Journey.
Maybe so. So Ash and Go don't really get along. I've only seen the first 4 or so episodes of this so far. Ash and Go don't really get along, but they get set up as research fellows, and I'm using air quotes, because they are 10 years old.
They've got their first internship
at
10.
They're perpetually 10. But they get hired as research fellows, which is another thing that's very similar to Pokemon Go. There's this scientist who's I need people to go out in the world and do these little fact-finding missions for me. And Go and Ash are we're interested in going out in the world. So they become a research team.
Okay.
And they're going out to in one of the early episodes... they're sent out to see what's going on with this big herd of Bulbasaur and Ivysaur that are sort of wandering through the street. And it turns out that they're on their way to this big field where they usually evolve, annually or whatever.
So they're sea turtles.
Kinda.
They go to where they previously evolved.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where they meet Team Rocket for the first time, for Go's first time. It seems again, Ash goes, not these guys again. But
are these people voiced usually by the same people, or do they get different voices for Ash and Team Rocket and stuff?
So Pokemon's been around for a long time. I think that the current voice actor for Ash and Team Rocket, I think they sound similar to the most recent version of the TV show that I've seen, which is, I think, Pokemon Sun and Moon. I think that they're the same. They're very different from when it started, and the animation's pretty different from when it started. But yeah, I think that they have carried over the same people, the same most recent people, or if not, then they're very similar.
Okay.
So this is basically just the beginning of hey, there's a new Pokemon property, and it seems to be based on the mobile game Pokemon Go, and not the video game Pokemon. For the first time. But they've found a way to connect it to Ash still.
Yeah, you can't have Pokemon without Ash, I guess.
You can't. You gotta have Ash and Pikachu now. They're staples.
Alright, well, thanks for telling me all about that.
I know how much you love to hear about it, so I thought I'd just make sure you're in the loop.
Thanks.
I know how much you don't really have time to watch all the Pokemon you want to, so...
I know, at the end of the day, I'm like, shoot, I should have watched more Pokemon today.
I think a lot of us have felt that way at times.
Okay.
Alright. Before we do sort of the main thing I think we're going to talk about in this one, I wanted to give a quick update also on She-Ra.
Because you finished it.
Because I finished She-Ra. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the series as a whole. I thought that it was an interesting story. I tweeted about it when I finished. What I said was something to the effect of, I tell Cora a lot when we're watching animated shows when it seems like someone's in trouble or in danger. She'll be like, "Oh no, Daddy, are they going to be okay?" And I usually will say something like, "Baby, if it's animated, everything's probably going to be fine."
Yeah.
Right, baby? Yeah.
If you guys hear whining in the background, it's because she, from the day she was born, or the day we took her home from the hospital, has hated her car seat.
Yeah, she's not a big fan of driving in the car.
Which is going to be super fun when we drive to Texas next weekend.
Huzzah! So I usually tell her if it's animated, things are probably going to end up okay. And that's basically how it is here. There are some stakes in the fourth and fifth seasons. I think I talked about, and again, always for She-Ra spoilers. I think I talked about Glimmer's mom giving her life.
Yes, in the portal.
Yeah.
Yes.
And things get pretty dark in this season.
Uh-oh.
They have rediscovered Glimmer's father, who they thought was dead. And he gets sort of taken over by the bad...
Is his name Sparkle?
No, his name's like Michael or something normal.
Okay. Raindrops on windshields will make good podcasts.
Oh, it's going to be great. Anyway, I'm not going to go into the full details of it because I think that people should watch it. There is... So... I will say, well, no, I guess I don't want to spoil the whole season.
Why don't you give it... Well, if people want to hear what happens at the end of She-Ra...
I'll just say that some foreshadowed relationships come to fruition at the end of She-Ra.
Okay.
So if you've been expecting to see some people get together by the end of this thing,
they probably will.
They most likely will. And if not, then maybe you'll just be surprised.
All right.
But I definitely think that people should watch She-Ra. It's overall a really solid show. Very entertaining.
Tell me again the ages that would be interested in that, other than, you, a 30... What?
I'll be 34.
34-year-old.
In a week and a half.
Yeah. Tell me the kid ages. What's it rated?
I think it is...
Y7?
Y7.
Okay.
And that generally means 7 to 12.
Okay. Just want to make sure our listeners knew
Yep.
the recommended rating.
Yep. And that is it.
Great.
So... what we'll need to do here is we're coming up on an exit, and that is the exit for Promoville.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
But I'm not really exiting. We're
gonna keep driving, but
we're still on the interstate.
But listeners, you get off at
it's
Promoville.
a metaphor.
And we'll pick you up.
It's a beautiful day, Promoville, a beautiful day for a promo. Would you please, could you please listen to this promo road trip edition?
Road trip remix.
Are you interested in hearing stories that seem too crazy to be real? Like how Belgium almost changed the mail delivery game by using cats as mail carriers?
Man, I wish they still did so the little monsters could earn their keep for once.
Or how a sexually frustrated dolphin named Zephyr cleared the beaches of France?
Ugh, in the running for the biggest aquatic creep of all time.
If so, go to bit.ly/Figment of My Reality, or whatever podcast app you use to subscribe and listen to Figment of My Reality every Tuesday as we take our tour through history that makes the truth seem stranger than fiction.
And we're back.
We're back!
We never really left.
No.
If you think about it.
No.
So...
You hear my car?
It's working hard.
Yeah.
We're going up a hill.
Up a hill.
So for the rest of this, we talked last week about the fact that we did watch Artemis Fowl.
We did.
And we're going to talk about Artemis Fowl.
Oh.
Natalie, tell us your thoughts on Artemis Fowl.
Well, I think I alluded to this last week. I have not read the book that this movie is based off of.
Right.
So I
I
had no preconceived anythings going into this movie. So when it started out as this is, first off, Josh Gad.
Yeah.
Always love him.
Yeah.
And in this one, he's like doing a gruff voice, which doesn't for me it threw me off at first because Josh Gad does not have a gruff voice.
He also doesn't look anything like normal Josh Gad.
No, he's got beard and long hair.
We did the exact same thing. We were watching the movie, and if you watch it, you probably did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the police have him, and they're gonna like interrogate him, and they pull him out of this van, and we're like, we're talking about like, okay, so this is happening, that's happening. They pull him out of the van. We both go, oh, it's Hagrid.
Hagrid?
Hi, Hagrid.
Oh, I about just witnessed a wreck on the interstate.
Yay!
Yay!
So yeah, he looks like Hagrid. He plays basically an overgrown dwarf.
Yes, which is kind of a reoccurring joke in the movie, is that he is normal Josh Gad size in the movie, but he's a dwarf, but all the other dwarfs are short.
Yeah.
And he just wants to be like all the other dwarfs and be short like they are. And he calls himself Dwarfus Giganticus or something like that. Like, and they kind of make fun of how tall he is. The other dwarfs do.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a,
Anyway, basically this whole movie's about Josh Gad.
It's not. But the parts where Josh Gad is in it are the best parts.
I think that's actually true.
I mean, I wasn't saying a lie when I just said that.
I was just saying I agree with you.
Okay. So it starts out with this idea that we have this criminal mastermind who is played by Colin Farrell, and he is named His name is Artemis Fowl. So they're questioning Josh Gad's character about Artemis Fowl, and he's like, listen, you don't want to know about him. It's actually his kid that was like the brains of the job that they're interrogating him about. And so then we look, and it's Artemis Fowl Jr.
Yeah. Conveniently, they're both named Artemis Fowl.
Yes. And he is, how old is this actor? Maybe like 12-ish?
Yeah, I was going to say 12, 13.
Yes, because in the movie they say he's 12. And he is super smart, smarter than everyone else at his school. He's bored, he overanalyzes and is able to, like, come up with answers to questions very quickly.
Yeah, there's this really cool thing at the beginning, and this is what kind of got us both roped into, like, okay, let's see where this goes, because he has this moment where he, like, is having a conversation with the school counselor or the principal or something, and they're having sort of this battle of wits about, like, well, don't you want to be like this? And he's like, well, I think you already know about this. And he's like, well, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, well, I insult your chair. And
I insult your chair.
Yeah, they make it, the guy, the principal or whoever makes a big deal about
his antique chair, and then
Artemis is like, I really like the chair. He goes, oh yeah, it's an antique. It was in Buckingham Palace for a while. And then later on, like, Artemis is talking to him, he's being smart, and he goes, and by the way, I didn't know they let fakes in Buckingham Palace. He's like, what are you talking about? And he spotted the thing that says that this chair is not real.
It's a fake. So it's actually older than what was quoted to the guy. So anyway, Artemis Fowl Sr. is an antiquities dealer.
Quote unquote.
Quote unquote, but that's kind of like his front. He's really more of a criminal mastermind.
Yeah, at the beginning, I think they say this starts at the beginning, is that, like, I guess it's more towards the middle, that he disappears.
Yeah.
And the moment he disappears, it turns out that people think that he has been behind a bunch of major, like, archaeological and historical and art heists.
Yeah. So that's what started it off, was Josh Gad being gruff and telling this story about Artemis Fowl and his son, who is actually this criminal mastermind, even though he's 12 and he's super smart and can come up with things really easily. And then we find out...
And also, fairies are real.
There it is. Right there. Then we find out one of the big things that Artemis Fowl Sr. teaches Junior is about the fairies and the dwarves and the
I think in this,
the magical creatures.
I think in this idea, the idea of fairies, basically, all of those mythological creatures are fairies.
Yes.
Of different kinds.
But I wanted to specifically say those because those are the prominent characters, fairies and dwarves. Are kind of, but they're all referred to as fairies in the movie, right? So then I'm like, okay, we can salvage this. This can be a criminal mastermind as a kid thing where he uses his brains and his wits, even though he's going to be, like, underestimated as a child. And it could also be, I guess, Magic Land? Okay.
And then the name of the police are the Leprechauns.
Was it really?
Yeah. Did you not see that?
No.
It said they go into the, like, police headquarters, and it's like each letter in Leprechaun is like, it's as if that,
like
the
it's
letter,
abbreviated?
like it's an acrostic.
Oh.
Like it's an acronym that each letter in the word leprechaun is part of the name of this police agency.
That's a long name, then.
If I remember right, the like, it's LEPR, and then econ is all one thing.
Oh.
And so...
Okay. Well, then we go into Magic World, which has so we're mostly in the military or police,
the leprechauns.
Yes. The police, what am I saying, group, department is the word I'm looking for, of the fairy world. And it is headed by
Dame Judi Dench.
Dame Judi Dench, who is also doing an extremely gruff voice.
Yeah, she's doing the gruff police chief who no one wants to cross.
And it doesn't work for me.
It didn't work for me either.
It doesn't work. I could see them going, okay, we'll have Josh Gad be kind of out of character, his usual character, and do a gruff voice as a dwarf. But they did it twice, and did Judi Dench as well. And there's like this funny little part where at one point Josh Gad and Dame Dench are talking, and he says something like, we could stand here growling at each other, you know, like, they make it an obvious, like, kind of joke.
Yeah, and what's funny is, like, Judi Dench has played this character before. She's M from the...
Right, she didn't need to
James
do
Bond
a
movies.
voice.
Yeah, she could have just been, like, she already has kind of a low, gravelly voice, but she puts on this
I
this
know,
sort
she
of
sounded like
voice.
she's been smoking for 20 years.
And you know what? Maybe she has.
Maybe she has, but she doesn't have to have the voice. Anyway.
I would feel bad if it turns out that she's not putting on a voice. That's just her voice now.
And every other movie she's been in, she's actually putting on a voice.
No, or just like now her voice is just degraded, and that's just what her voice sounds like now. Like, you'd be perfect as the Leprechaun police chief. And she's like, all right, let's do it.
I do not think. I think she was putting on a voice.
I think so too.
Anyway, she's the head of the police department in Fairyland. And Fairyland police department is not very magical.
No.
It's high tech.
But it's a weird kind of high tech. So, for instance, we meet, what's her name? Polly, I think. The police
Yeah,
member.
is it Polly?
I think it's Polly.
Where it's the main fairy character that we follow.
Is like this up and coming leprechaun officer who is gonna go and like, she has her father like disappeared and she's trying to figure out where he went. And it turns out that her father and Artemis Sr. knew each other and that
We're
they were trying to get
friends.
this magical device out at like safely away from like bad people.
Right.
But we don't know that yet. And so, but we meet her, and what's weird about the technology is they go, okay, we got to get you into the real world. And what we're going to do is shoot you up this magma tube out of a volcano.
Right.
And the thing is, like, when I first saw that, I was like, dope. Cool. That's a really cool way to get you because they're supposed to be in the middle of the world. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You should go through the magma tubes. And they do that exactly one time. And then it turns out that, no, you don't have to go that way. Like, there's a way through the water to get here. And I think one time someone just like maybe teleports or something. I don't. They didn't have to shoot her through the magma tube, folks. Is what I'm trying to say. It's just an unnecessary extra thing.
And then the guy, the main technician.
Yeah.
I had a problem with the way they portrayed him. The main technician is a centaur.
Which is fine.
Which is great. We love centaurs. But they made him whinny.
Yeah, like every time he'd
Like
enter a room, he'd be like,
He whinnied. And I was like, the front part of him is human.
yeah, he's a man in like
He's
a nice
man
jacket.
in a nice jacket, and the back of him is a horse, but he's whinnying out of his human mouth.
He also like has really long hair, like he has a mane, and occasionally he shakes it out like a horse. And I think I get what they were going for. I think I get that they were trying to be like, let's reimagine a centaur
And make him more
and make
horse-like.
him a little more horse-like. But I don't understand why they needed to do it.
But that's not what a centaur is. A centaur is half and half.
I know.
So I didn't care for that. And then just kind of by the end, it just started getting sloppy to me.
Yeah, the thing is, it never really comes back around. Like they just from the first part of the movie. This is I think both of our main things. Because here's the deal, y'all. It's a straight to digital release Disney PG movie. So you kind of know what you're signing up for when you get these movies. It's like The Sorcerer's Apprentice when that movie came out. It's like that. The effects are at that level where it's like fine, but it's maybe a little bit too much. But I think, for me at least, going into it, I was fine. When I saw those kinds of things, I'm like, yeah, I get it. They have to kidify it and make it a little bit more mature, and this is how they did it. And maybe the book is exactly like this, which is like the grain of salt I was trying to keep too.
Right.
But the thing about it, and if this is true from the book to the movie as well, so if they did this accurately, you completely lose the thread that he's such a smart kid.
Exactly. They never bring it back that he can be a mastermind.
It's just granted from the first 15 minutes from here on out, like, you should just assume he's a genius.
They show him being really smart in school.
Yeah.
And being able to pick out details of things and analyze things. And that doesn't come back. All he does for the rest of the show or movie. I called it a show like my mom does. Love you, Max. all he does for the rest of the movie is read Artemis Senior's journals and
be like
find
the leader,
things out.
and be like the leader of the new group. But yeah, he doesn't. We don't see him figure stuff out from there on out.
He doesn't really mastermind anything.
And so,
I was just kind of disappointed in that.
yeah, overall, it's not a super fulfilling movie from a grown-up standpoint.
Exactly.
There's some fun moments in it for sure. Most of them are related to Josh Gad.
Yeah.
I will say that I think that all the kids in this movie, because there are three main character kids. There's Artemis and Polly, and the girl whose name I'm forgetting, who's like the niece of the bodyguard.
I can't remember either.
Man, I wish I could remember. And I'm using my phone to record, or I'd look it up.
It's an M name, I think.
So...
Mia or Maya or...
Okay.
I feel like.
So, I think that actually all of those actors do a good job. I think that they're not bad actors. I think the main problems with this movie are story-related.
Yeah. Well, yes. I agree. I think that the writing kind of went weird. Like, they changed writers in the middle of the... I don't know.
Yeah.
Because suddenly there's not as much substance as there was at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, it starts off looking like it's going to be borderline gritty, and just gets very sugary by the end.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not necessarily made for us.
But we
watched it.
but we consumed it.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
It's fine. It's not bad.
I really am interested now, and if you read the books, people listening, and you're like, no, that's exactly the way the book goes, and maybe the movie just didn't execute that super well, or maybe it did it perfectly, and you just need to have read the book to fully appreciate the movie.
Yeah. Not much longer.
But yeah, if that's the case, that's totally possible, and that happens, I think, with a lot of movies. But just know, for two people who are into sort of the fantasy genre, and I think would normally appreciate this kind of story, it didn't quite do it for us.
Kind of fell flat a little bit, except for those first, like I said, 15 minutes. It got me really interested, and then the rest of the movie kind of didn't stay up on that high place.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
There it is.
Maybe you loved it, and that's great.
Yeah, but we don't normally do... I'm glad we did this one, because we don't normally do negative reviews. I feel like we don't do a lot of negative reviews.
Right.
And so I'm glad that there's something that we can sort of use as a guide stone for where our taste is, because I do feel like, with the exception of some of like the very obnoxious children's shows,
right,
we haven't really come out against quote. We're not against this movie, but
we don't usually say that we didn't like something.
Yeah, and certainly not yet anything from Disney Plus. I think this is the first Disney thing that we've been like, no, we probably won't watch this again.
Right. But yeah, there it is.
There it is.
Artemis Fowl, our opinion of Artemis Fowl.
And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well, because maybe we missed something. So we're coming up on the end of the episode here. And it's a little bit of a shorter one, but that's okay.
Yeah, we're fixing to be home anyways.
But before we close, we did want to take just a second to acknowledge some of the pain that's been going on in the world lately.
Yeah, we watch kids shows, but we know what happens in the world. Mostly.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people, and especially like with the Black Lives Matter movement happening now, and we're also in Pride Month. There's a lot of people out there right now are fighting hard for their rights and need to fight hard for their rights. And we just want to acknowledge that fight is happening.
Yes, we are two privileged white adults, and we just wanted to acknowledge and say that we see you and we see your struggle, and we are sorry for the hurt that the world puts upon you on a day-to-day basis.
And we hope that we are an escape for that, but we also just want to acknowledge that there's suffering happening in the world that we aren't experiencing, and that we hope that can come to an end.
Yeah. Well, we stand by you, and we love you, and I'm going to bring out a Veggie Tales. You ready?
Oh, okay.
You ready for some Veggie Tales? We can be your friend, na na na, we can be your friend. If your hair is red or yellow, we can have lunch, I'll share my Jell-O. Do you know that's on, like, my Facebook profile under my description?
Is it really?
Says that. I can be your friend, I can be your friend. If your hair is red or yellow, we can have lunch, I'll share my Jell-O.
I love that.
I love it. That's why I put it there.
All right, folks. This has been Not Suitable for Adults Road Trip Edition.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. I hope it comes out okay.
Yeah, I think part of us is like, this was kind of a fun way to do it, and also there's a part of us that's like, man, I hope we don't get home and listen to this and we have to re-record the whole thing.
If we do, we know exactly what we're going to say already.
That's right. We'll just read it like a script.
This is like a rehearsal.
Yeah. Go ahead and follow us over on the social media. We're pretty much everywhere at Not4AdultsCast. You can also shoot us an email at notforadultscast@gmail.com. And we would love to hear from you, whether it's about Artemis Fowl or shows that you wish we'd watch or shows that we've watched before and you agreed or disagreed or whatever. We want to hear from you.
And this is a kids show podcast, and a lot of parents listen to us. So from us to you, happy Father's Day.
Oh, yeah, we are recording on Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, babe.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say to me.
You're welcome. This morning when he got up, Cora said, Happy Father's Day to you.
Yeah, that's nice. And then also, please go over, if you're listening to us on, especially iTunes, but anything that lets you rate or review us, we'd love to see those rates and reviews. You can also, if you're not an iPhone user, you can go to podchaser.com. That's a great place to leave us some feedback. But just get out there, and we want to hear from you. We want to get that conversation going, so please don't hesitate.
Thanks for joining us on our road trip from McMinnville, Tennessee to Nashville, Tennessee. You just went on that road trip with us. Well, part of it.
Yeah, you were there for some of it.
You were part of it, yeah, for some of it. I hope you enjoyed our little ride.
And if you're like us when you get home from a long road trip, you just want to sit back and just kick up your feet and just don't forget, you're the boss.
So watch whatever you want.
Bye.
Bye.